I had a friend who was very active in the Muslim community, always wore very large hijabs and jilbabs, organized Quran programs, attended every lecture. At one point, she was sexually assaulted by a community member, a community elder. She spent years working to process the trauma, and she also attempted suicide. She removed her hijab, and one of the reasons is the next story that I'm going to share with you, inshallah. I had another friend who we used to wear niqab together. She used to fast every other day and would pray tahajjud like every night. She also was a victim and a survivor. After a suicide attempt, she was hospitalized, and when she was hospitalized, the hospital refused to allow her to wear hijab because they said that it could be used as a tool. When she left the hospital, she removed her hijab, and it wasn't because she was obsessed with the dunya or because she was worried about what people would think about her as she was walking down the street and judging her. She was worried about herself and her own safety when it came to having hijab on. The third example is of a young woman who started wearing hijab in middle school because her parents told her that hijab is a protection from men. I want you to consider what her feelings towards hijab may have been when its form of protection from assault did not protect her. She was not taught that abuse is about power and control. She was taught that abuse is about her dress. And that messaging is one that I have heard hundreds of times. There are lots of reasons why women do not wear hijab. This is simply a few examples of ones related to trauma. And we could say that it's so sad that these sisters were taught to center men when it came to hijab instead of centering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That had they been taught that hijab is this, deeply connected form of worship to Allah, maybe their navigation of that trauma may have been different. But if we are going to make that statement, then we should also look at the community that is responsible for teaching that message. And when we don't bring that conversation into the conversation on hijab, we perpetuate this idea that women who do not wear hijab are not pious, when we don't even understand the Also, I realize I should have said this. This is obviously not encouragement to remove hijab when someone is processing trauma. I'm just sharing with you the reality that maybe many people are not aware of, which is why we continue to perpetuate these ideas of piety being tied to hijab. Of course, hijab is a beautiful obligation, and we should look right now especially to the women of Gaza who wear hijab. Women who wear hijab in Gaza are wearing it 24/7 because they do not want to be martyred without their hijabs on. Looking at that framework of hijab as an act of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and building that connection, but also accountability as a community, providing access and mentorship and support without the stigma and the taboo and the guilt, helping women see themselves as who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them to be, instead of constantly forcing down our throats the idea that women are fitna for just existing, are all parts of the conversation that need to happen before we make blanket statements like pious women always wear hijab.